Hey, what is up gentlemen, welcome back to this new exciting tutorial series from realityfakers.net, and today we're going to be creating this awesome nitrogen boosting effect in Blender. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're going to be learning about the fluid simulation and how can we add the fire and smoke to our scene. We're going to be learning about the force fields in Blender and how can we use them to affect our smoke and fire. We will be using the shader editor to control the colors of our nitrogen, making a variety of options to choose from, because in reality, in video games, usually nitrogen looks bluish, so we need to replicate that. And finally, we're going to be animating our fire and smoke based on the car movement, so that it can follow up our vehicle on every turn. By the way, this is a part of a tutorial series that's gonna help you make cinematic animations of car pursuits in Blender, and also we're going to be building and publishing our game on both PC, and also we're going to be playing our game on Android mobile phones. Alright then, so it's gonna be a lot of fun, so with no further ado, let's dive right into it. First, I'd like to select my car, the chassis of our vehicle, and let's work on it. So first we need to add that domain. So let me explain. So if you want to have fluid simulation whatsoever, you need to have two objects. First is gonna be a domain. So the domain is where that simulation is gonna occur. In our case, we're gonna just create a cube. So let me just put it here. I'm gonna put the cursor over here. So Shift S, cursor to select it. And let's add Shift A. I'm gonna bring a cube. So this cube is gonna be our domain. Let me just move it up. So as you can see, I'm trying to move it backward. So obviously we're gonna be having the Nitro simulation starting from here. It's gonna go, for example, in here. So you have to be optimizing this cube, because otherwise it's gonna take more time to bake. Actually, we don't need any. This space one's gonna be baking anything in this area. So let's just move it down to something like this. Also on the ground, so I prefer making it well aligned with the wheels like this. Okay, so we're gonna understand this principle later on. Okay, so after that, also always make sure that the scale of this item is set to 1, otherwise you can do this, Control I, and apply the scale, and you can have it set to 1 and 1 and 1. Okay, so we got our domain. I'm gonna just jump into the physics properties, this one. So physics properties, click on it and choose fluid. So this one is set into fluid right now. And for the type of it, like I said, it must be a domain. So again, the domain is where that simulation it's gonna occur. Okay, also let me just set the center of mass from here to the center of it. So object set origin and origin to the geometry, just like that. Alright, so now we need to add our second object, which is the source of our nitrogen, of our fluid simulation. So I'm gonna just do some tweakings here. I'm gonna be selecting my vehicle. Go to edit mode. I'm gonna be selecting these exhaust here, so just faces like that. Also here, just do something like this. Also, I'd like to extrude it inside a little bit. I don't want to be able to see that that end, so maybe a little bit deeper, something like that. So after that, I'm gonna do Shift D to duplicate these objects, just no more planes, and I'm gonna press B and separate selection. So now we have these objects separated. We can move them outside a little bit like this. So we're gonna set this object to be the source of our nitrogen in our scene. So change over here the fluid, so click on fluid. Always we are on the physics properties, and for the type of it, let's go into flow. Okay, and for the type of the flow, so I prefer to set it into fire plus smoke. And also for the geometry, so actually we need to have an ingoing. We want it to be keep producing that smoke. It's gonna keep giving us that smoke, not just one time. So you have to set it to inflow. So the difference between inflow and outflow, so the outflow is gonna suck the smoke. If we are having any smoke source in our scene, if we set any object into an outflow, it's gonna suck the smoke. And for the inflow, it's gonna do the opposite. It's gonna emit the smoke. Alright, so we got that. So we got all the components. Also, let me just go to object set origin and origin to the geometry. Like that, which is good. So I think this is the sweetest spot. Okay, something like this. Okay, so for the type of it, like I said, we set it to flow. But I want you to make sure of something. So this object over here must be inside the domain. Otherwise, it won't gonna be working. The simulation won't gonna be working. So make sure that this object is inside this domain, which is the case in our situation. Alright, so let me select this object. Also, let me set this scale. So Control I and apply the scale to 1, 1, and 1. Okay, so now we're good to go. Alright, so now let's start our fluid simulation. So we're gonna, let me just first switch material preview, but we got a problem. So if we jump, for example, into frame 13, you're gonna see that that object is gonna be exiting this, going outside this borders. So let me just reverse back. So in my case, I'm gonna just hide, or let me just switch here, selecting my bone first, the cow rig. I'm gonna be switching to the pose mode, and let me just jump into the physics properties. Where is it? Yeah, actually we must be selecting this one, this bone, this one. So this is where this is the one that we animated. So I'm gonna just hide that path, this one. We just hide it so that we can have our vehicle fixed. So let me just find it. It should be at the center of the origin here. There we go. Okay, so let me bring the other components and let's link it to it, just so that we can see our simulation first, and after that we can connect this object with the other one. Okay, so let me just move it aside. I'm gonna press 7 to go to the top view, and let's put it behind our vehicle. So this is our vehicle. Let's just put it behind it, just like that. Perfect. Okay, so period to zoom on it. Let's take a look, maybe down a little bit, something like that. It must be touching the ground. Okay, so from here, as you can see, if we start the bacon, we're not going to be having any problems because we're excluding that curve path. Alright, so let's start the bacon, but let me check the other components. So we have this guy here, which is good. We can call it here the nitrogen source, or exhaust. Okay, so now we're good. So let me select my domain. So if you want to bake, you have to select your domain and go back to the physics properties, scroll down. So as a starting point, we're going to go with 32 degree divisions. That's fine for the resolution. We'll get back to it later on. Okay, so here for the type of our baking, I would like to set it to all. And I want you to check this is resumable, just so that we can bake and we can stop and we can continue the baking later on. Okay, so let's start baking this one just so that we can see what we got. As you can see, it's going fast because we're running on a low resolution. Alright, so let me stop here. I'm gonna press escape to stop here, and let's see. So now we're having some smoke, which is good, but we need to work on it. So actually what we need to do is to push it outside. So actually the engine is pushing the smoke outside. So since we don't have any force field, so the smoke goes up. So if we switch to wireframe, you can see that. So this is the source of our smoke, and it's just going up. So we need to find a way to push it outside. So this is where the force fields come to play. So Shift A, and let me show you. So down below we have here force fields. You can use one of those. So actually I'm going to be using the wind so that we can push that smoke to go outside. So let me just put the cursor here. So Shift S, cursor to select it, and Shift A, and let's add a force field. It's gonna be the wind, just to push that, just if it's blowing into that. But you know the direction of the wind is not set correctly. So what we need to do is to RX and spin it by 90 degree. Okay, no, actually by minus 90 degrees. So let's just reverse back. So RX minus 90 degrees. So it should be going this way. So the effect of that. And also let me just scale it down. I don't think scaling it down will affect it, just because strength here stay still, which is 1. You can also do this, Control I, and let's apply the scale, just so that you can see that object even better. So let me just move it backward, for example here, and yeah, I think that's the best spot. We can move it a little bit to the center. Okay, and for the strength of it, let's start with something like 5. Okay, so also keep in mind that you have to save your scene, because with the fluid simulation it always crashes. So here let me just call it Nitro test. Alright, so let's save that, and let's get back and try to rebake our smoke. So let me just expand this one. So if you want to rebake, you have to free the old data and rebake it again. So free that data and bake all from the starting point. Okay, so we can stop at frame 60 to assess the quality, and there we go. So now as you can see, we're pushing our smoke this way. So if you want to have more smoke or more nitrogen, you can do this. You can select the source of our nitrogen, and you can go over here to the fuel settings, and you can set, for example, to 2.5, just to increase the amount of fuel that we got. So let me just reset the baking again. So let's free the data and bake again, bake all again. Okay, let me stop and check again. As you can see, we're having some strong fluid, but it's going up. You can see the direction of that, which is not good. So actually we have to push it even further. So let's increase the wind effect, just so that we can make our nitrogen goes a little bit horizontally. So I'm gonna just increase its strength to 10. Okay, so let's rebake. So I'm pretty sure that the word of rebaking is gonna keep echoing in this video all probably 1000 times or even more. So let's stop here. And check again. Now there we go. So now as you can see we have that it's going straight, but it's a huge. So the amount of nitrogen that we got is really huge. So actually what we need to do is to reduce the size of these objects so we can scale them down like this. But also if you want to scale objects on its own, make sure that you are switching to this one, the individual origins. Otherwise, if you are on the median point, which is the default, so you're going to be scaling like this, which is not the case. So switch this one to the individual origins and scale it down. Also, you might consider scaling it on the x-axis, so SX, making it smaller, because we don't want to have this. This is really, it looks like a rocket launch or something like that. So let's just get back here and let's free that data and let's pick again and let's see the results. Alright, so let's stop here and check again. Nice, yeah, it starts to looks good. Yeah, maybe, yeah, actually what we need to do is to also apply the scale. So the scale is applied, but we still have huge amount of smoke over there. I think if we increase the resolution of our domain, it's gonna be better. So now it's set to 32. Let me just free the data and set it, for example, to 75. Okay, we can always make sure to save, so Control S to save everything. And let's, no, not render, so I got messed up. So bake everything and let's wait for it. It's gonna take some time because, as you know, the more resolution, the longer it's gonna take to bake. So I think that 40 is enough to give us an idea about it. Yeah, I think now it's looking, it starts to look even better. You can see that. I like it. Maybe we can reduce the fuel a little bit down. So it's gonna be from this way. We can reduce the fuel just a tiny bit. Let me just select my object. I'm gonna go to the fuel and let's set it, for example, to 1.75. Okay, so let's try again. And I'm gonna be selecting my domain and let's free the data and bake again. Okay, so let's stop here at frame 40 again and let's check again. Now I think it's looking pretty fine. Yeah, actually, don't worry about the smoke. We're gonna remove it in the texturing part. So I think we're good. Yes. We can also do something else. So if you want to add more details to the smoke, right now it doesn't look messy. So actually nitrogen looks a little bit, don't look consistent like this. So we need to add some randomness. So if you want to do that, you can check this noise effect like this, check it. And let's keep it at, I think 2 is fine. Okay. But also let me just free the data and we need to rebake so that we can be able to see our noise takes effect. So let's bake again and let's see. So let's stop here again and let's check what we got. So now as you can see, it's more messy. It has a lot of details, which is good. So it's gonna look really good in the texturing section. Okay, so I like it. Okay, so right now, let me just switch to the material preview just to see it with the car. Yes, actually we're not able to see anything because we didn't apply any material to our domain. So let's do that. So I'm gonna just expand this bar over here and let's just switch it. Or we can make a cut, divide this one into 2 sections. This one, let's devote it to the shader editor. Okay, and here I'm going to be switching to the object. So like always, you need to be selecting the domain if you want to apply some textures to the smoke that you have inside it, not the source of our nitrogen. Okay, so here let's add a new material. Let's call it nitro smoke, or fire, not smoke, fire. Okay, and from here let's remove this principal BSDF. Let me just maximize this one so that you can use it. So we aren't going to be using this one. We're going to be using, so X to delete it. We're going to be using a volumetric. So Shift A, let's add a volume, principal volume, the second one. So Shift A and just type volume and you're going to get this one. So the volume should be connected to the volume like this, and Control Space, let's just get back and take a look. So right now we can see that we have some smoke, which is really subtle. Not sure if you can see that or not, but let's go ahead and increase this black body intensity to, for example, 100. And now we're going to be able to see our fire. Can you see that? She's good. Okay, it doesn't look that good on the viewport, of course, but we need to tweak it. So for example, we can switch here to the render, but always make sure to save. Don't want to lose our progress. So let's switch here to the render view just so that we can see what we got. There we go. So we got our fire. So what we need to do is to tweak a little bit the texture of it. Let me just show you. So we can do this. So I found this formula. I found it on the Blender Stack Exchange. So let's do it. So Shift A, let's add first a math node. Okay, we need this one, and after that we need a color ramp. So Shift A, we need a color ramp, and the third node that we need is the attribute. So just bear with me, I'm gonna explain everything, the connection between those. So attribute. Okay, so first I'm gonna just go ahead and connect the factor to the color ramp. Gonna see this nice effect, and also this one, let's connect first to the top one. Okay, so for the name of this one, it should be density, just like this one. We can copy it, or we can just write it down, density, because we're going to be connecting this value to the density like this. Okay, so this is for the first node. For the second node, we need to switch it from linear to constant, so that we can have fixed color. Can be playing with this one, so that we can have different results. And for the third node, we need to switch it from add to multiply, and we need to increase this value to 100. Okay, so control space, and let's just get back and give it a check. Okay, so we're not seeing anything, I see. So let's switch to the render view and let's take a look. So you can control a little bit the sides. Let me just take this node handle. I'm gonna just take it to the right side, to the left side. Yes, actually I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, it doesn't show anything, but that's fine. So probably just remove this tip. Density, what about connecting this one to density here? Let's take a look. There we go. So actually we should connect it to the density and not to the density attribute. Now we can see some weird realistic. Yeah, it starts to look realistic over there. We can also trim it a little bit because we don't want to have any heavy smoke like that. Let's take a look. Yes, it's looking good, but let's make it even closer. Nope. You know what? Let's do something. I'm gonna get back to the fluid simulation. I'm gonna only render the fire, not the smoke. So let's select our domain and let's switch back to the physics properties, and let's scroll up. No, actually I forgot about, yeah, actually it's not the domain, but this one, the source of our fluid. So here let's set the flow type to only fire. Okay, so let's select our domain and let's free the data and let's bake it all again. So experimentation, that's the key. We have to keep experimenting with different results just so that we can have or achieve something good. Alright, so let's stop here, escape, and let's check what we got. So yeah, it looks nice. It looks settled. We don't have any smoke whatsoever, which is good. So let's switch to the render. Just take a look at it in the render viewport. Yep, okay, let's make these closer a little bit. I think this one only works with the smoke. I don't see any change here, but that's fine. Can roll with that, that's fine. So let me show you the other settings that we can change. So here on this principal volume, we have the black body intensity. Let me just switch back to the solid because sometimes it's lagging on the render view. So here we can do this. We can change this black body tint color. We can make it, for example, bluish. Give it that color. Let's take a look. So usually the nitrogen has that bluish color. It looks like this, but not like this. Let me just tweak it even more. Yep, something like this, but let's increase this V color, this V value. Let's click on it and let's set it to, for example, 50. And let's see, no, that's too much. What about 20? Even 20 is a lot. So let's set it to, for example, 5. Okay, let's take a look. No, actually I didn't like this bluish effect. What about, let me try to play with it a little bit here. Yeah, for example, that's something like that. Okay, let's increase this one to 15. Let's take a look at it if it's gonna be better. Yeah, we can keep experimenting with different colors of the fire and smoke, the nitrogen. I didn't like it, to be honest with you. This one looks a little bit greenish. Let's just try to remove that green color. Just playing with this one, just a little bit to the right side. There we go. So it starts to look good right now. We have some residue. We have some white stuff inside it. Let me try to increase this intensity to 150. So increase that. Yeah. What about a 300. Nice. Now I like it. Yeah, now it looks really good. Alright, so now let's bring our vehicle back into the street or into the racing. So let me select my bone here and let's switch to the pose mode. I'm gonna be selecting this one, top one. Yeah, it's going up because our bridge is not straight. So let me go here to the bone constraint and let's make it visible. So now we're gonna be, yes, actually we forgot something really important, which is to make this object over here, the wind force field and the cube, we need to make them connected with our car. So the way to do it is really simple. Just select all the components that you want to link to the vehicle, these, and shift and select the car. So make sure that the car is the last one selected and press Ctrl P. So now you can see that we have to set parent to object. Okay, so now they are connected. So if we select our chassis and move it, so that those objects, they're gonna stick to the car, which is good. Okay, so let's bring back our vehicle to work. So obviously the starting point is gonna be from 50. So how can we set that? So first select the domain and let's jump into the physics properties. Let's scroll down, and here we can have this inside the cache tab. So we're gonna be seeing the starting frame and the end. So in our case, we want to start this one from frame 50. I see, yeah, from 50. So let's set the starting frame to 50, and the end point is gonna be, for example, 100. We can stop at 125. 125. Okay, so our fluid is gonna start from frame 50 and it's gonna end at 125. So let's give it a check. I'm gonna select my domain and let's free the data and let's rebake again. Okay, so our baking is completed, so we can give it a check. So normally it should start at frame 50 and it's gonna end, yeah, there we go, right? Yes, yeah, pretty nice. So we got that going on and it's gonna end at frame 125. Let's check that up. So I also recommend doing this. So you can see that shutdown doesn't look that good. So it's gonna be good if we have it exponential or not just linear. So actually there is a quick trick to do that. You can select the source of our fluid and you can animate the fuel. For example, at frame 25, let's just first, we can start the decline of our nitrogen at frame 110. So right click here, insert this keyframe, and we can jump into frame 125 and we can set this fuel to what? 0. It's gonna end at that frame. Okay, so this way it was gonna be sudden, so it's gonna be animated. That shutdown is gonna be animated, which is it's gonna be looking really good. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. So we know how to add this fluid simulation to our cars. So if you have any questions, you can leave them down below. So thanks for watching and I hope to see you in the coming tutorial. Have an awesome day.